And we say it's sabotage because it gets us to do things, or it takes us away from things that we know we need to do to fulfill our desires. That's why we call it sabotage. We need to reframe it in that this is the identity. Whenever your body does something or you do something that is not in alignment with your desires, that's the energy of the former identity. So all we have to do is actually allow ourselves to feel it, actually allow ourselves to observe what's been happening in the mirrored universe so that we can get to know what the trigger was that caused the energy to come up to get us back into the state of who the mind
Welcome
thinks it
to
is
Queen
based on the 0
Bold
to 7.
EQ podcast, where I share with you the mindset, energetics, emotional intelligence, and habits required to transform your health and manifest your dream body. I'm your host, Saracione, a 20-plus year fitness professional, lifelong entrepreneur, and I have self-healed my chronic pain and my emotional eating. And I am here to share with you the spiritual and the practical so you can transform your health and manifest your dream body.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. If you are somewhere in a morning time zone, it is exactly 10 a.m. Pacific time on Thursday, January 5th. I am so excited to be sharing with you this 5th episode of Queen Bold EQ. If this is your first time joining, hello. If you are on Facebook or you're watching the replay in any one of my groups that I shared this to, let's actually share this right now, or I'll share it later. This is about you becoming the queen of your own mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual state. We are in a time of remembering the feminine energetics, the heartfelt energetics, not just the doing and thinking that's masculine in mind, but the deep wisdom that comes with life experiences that don't feel great. That's really the resurgence that we're at. And when we do the inner work to let go of all the things that have hurt us, traumatized us, victimized us, things that we've misinterpreted, that we've just hung on to, when we take the time to go through all of that stuff that's unconsciously stored in our body, the energy of sabotage doesn't exist anymore. The energy becomes a sonar device that's like a soft, pillowy, fuzzy snow globe that's all around you, that senses the environment and just lets you know if this is the right place for you to be, the right person to be connected with, or the right actions that you should be taking or even thinking. So that's what this inner work has done for me. And so it's 2023, and I'm really excited to share with you, kind of in hindsight, what this journey has been that I've been on, which really feels like my whole life, and give it to you in bite-sized chunks, and how you can really apply it to diet, food, and exercise / self-care, kind of that category. Because what I found as an entrepreneur is that the way I self-inflicted the negative emotions stored in my body resulted in overworking myself that turned into chronic pain, tension, migraines, and then eventually a break in my cervical spine where a disc slid up and under the one above it. And then also how my negative emotions that were stored in my body showed up in the relationship that I put on food and diet and self-worth, with what I thought my body should look like, then what I thought it should perform as, and ultimately how that placed value on me as a person. So that's what bold EQ is all about, that we have to have a bold emotional intelligence if we're really going to do this, because this is the dark night of the soul internally, over and over and over again, until it gets a little lighter each time you go through a healing process, till eventually things feel pretty good and you can sense your sabotage without it actually being sabotage. You can just have an emotional awareness of what choices are up for you to do, and then if you're going to do choices that are in alignment with your goals or ones that are not. So I left my podcasting hooker upper thing in for my laptop. So that's why we don't have the podcast up or the podcast boom up. And but that like gave me an opportunity to wear my dragon earrings. So I'm really excited about that. So we're happy about that. Okay, so let's get into it. Oh, and then by the way, one of the reasons why I'm recording these on Facebook is so that we can have hot seat coaching. So if you go to my Instagram at it's Lauren Saracione, I put up stickers in my stories with an announcement of what the topic is for the podcast episode that day. And so if you can't make it live to put in your questions for hot seat coaching on the Facebook comments, you could always submit a question that you want answered about this topic, and then I'll cover it on the recording. Okay, so let's get into this. This is episode 5, and it's about sensing the energy of sabotage. So I just have 3 points for you today, and this is something that you're going to be able to put into action today. So if you need to press pause on the replay and take some notes or come back to this on Facebook, go ahead and do that. Number 1, so just remember, we got 3 points. That's it. So the first point is what is the energy of sabotage? Like what actually is the energy of sabotage? And the energy of sabotage is dun, 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 identity. And so what we want to understand about sabotage, and especially because this takes the drama off and it takes the guilt and the shame off, because when we understand that the things that we're doing in our sabotage mode. So if you've been dieting for a certain amount of days and then you blow it all, on drinks, and then because you're drinking, then your appetite increases. And then all of a sudden you just had like a 5,000 calorie evening when you've been so quote unquote good. So if you have that sabotage, or if you have sabotage where your body starts to rebel, our body will get sick or injured, or it will attract things to it to deter us from following through on our goals. That is a very deep energy of sabotage that is keeping the body and who you are in your mindset, in your emotional intelligence, and in your physical condition, who it was before you decided to change, or who it was before you started to change. And the reason why is because the mental, emotional, and physical body's job on the 3D plane is to hold the identity in place of who the mind thinks it is from 0 to 7 conditioning. So when we're born, we don't have a book of life that tells us how we're supposed to do things at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 13, 17, 22, 25. We don't have a book of life. Our body is the book of life because it comes with cellular memory of our ancestors, and it comes with miasmatic energy also from our ancestors, but the miasmatic memory is an energetic entity that follows our people from generation to generation. So we have the anti-material universe, or the non-physical universe, that has this genetic imprint energetically of miasma. And then we have the physical material universe that has our information genetically on the chemical level within our body. So our book of life, our body literally gets programmed to tell the story of what the mind, or so what the reader of the book of life means, based on the environment and the relationships and the interpretation of what those two things meant about the person's ability to survive. So that goes into our entrepreneurialism and our worth. If we're worth it, if we deserve our heart's desires. So when we have this program being downloaded into us, it's downloading, or I should say, our identity. So this identification gets downloaded into us by our energetic body observing the environment. Is this a safe place for me to be? By watching how the adults are interacting with each other, how they're interacting with us, and then also our siblings and our extended family. We basically look at the whole landscape of relationships to say, how does it work to be in community with other humans? And what is it that I need to do and be? Who do I need to be in order to be accepted into this tribe? Because it goes back to primal fear. If we're not part of the tribe, we die by another tribe, an enemy tribe. We die by the elements, or we die by an animal. So if we don't feel a sense of community and fitting in, we start to download and interpret the feelings that we have in our body means that I don't fit in. And then we do all this crazy stuff as we get older to try to figure out, will this work if I fit in? Will this work? Will this work? And it just keeps compounding. So identity, when we have this environment, right? So first we have like the energetic sonar. Is this area safe? What does it mean to be in relationship? What is my place in society? What is the value that is of me? Who do I need to be? How do I need to change in order to make sure that I am connected? So all of the experiences, good and bad and indifferent, all of the experiences, all of the environments, and the thoughts that we create and the meanings that we create about all of those emotional, energetic experiences, then create this profile of a mind-body connection and a mental emotional operating system that says, when I interact with this energy, when I'm in the field and there's an energy of sadness and I get triggered to then eat my emotions, it's going to hold the identity of what that mind-body connection is around the energy of sadness, or what sadness means about the person, or what we're supposed to do to not feel sad anymore. We process our emotions with food by suppressing them and by flooding our body with more hormones from our brain that make us feel good from eating really delicious food, which is, if you're like putting it together, it's not processing at all. It's just snuffing out that the chemical reaction to sadness that we're having in our body. Or we actually do the work to say, what am I sad about? What have I learned about sadness? What in me that is sad can I transmute into wisdom, so that when I face the energy of sadness, I won't sabotage and self-soothe with food or with work, because I feel like I need to work harder when I'm sad so that I could prove my worth, so that I could be a member of society, so that I could survive. And this is all unconscious, what it means to be human, but I'm giving you examples of how it translates into real life with our work and our business, with our body sabotaging ourselves, and with our behavior sabotaging ourselves. So sabotage is just identity. So what happens is this is point number 2. So our mind-body field, right? Like the body stores the information, and negative information, negative as in bad information, scary environmental stuff, fear, pain. Anything that we associate with bad gets stored in our body and locked in. This is where we get the phrase, issues are stored in our tissues. So the body will then hold on to that memory, because it's like this. If we have an anti-material universe and a material universe, I think that's actually like the technical terms of what astrophysicists say. I don't think they say physical and non-physical. I think that's more of a spiritual point of view. So if we have these two universes, and the mental and emotional bodies, so to speak, are on the anti-material plane, that is the gear behind the movement of the body. So if you can think of a watch face, and you can think of gears on the watch that makes the hands move, right? Or you can go into our smart devices and we say they're computer chips that are behind the glass screen of the watch. That's what's making the things appear on the watch. So the mental emotional state is actually the operating system for how the body's going to function. And because we don't have bags to hold our mental emotional operating systems, the holder of those mental emotional identities or states become trapped in the body. They're stored in the body. So that's why we can look up the metaphysical meaning of shoulder pain, and we're going to get an overview of what self-doubt we might be dealing with, what emotions we might be dealing with, and then how to change our mindset and change our feelings to alleviate the shoulder pain. So what's happening is the physical body is moving through the environment, right? Where you go to work, where you go grocery shopping, where you go for your hobbies, what bars, what restaurants, what coffee shops. Your electromagnetic field, your emotional body is very expansive, like immeasurably expansive to feel the environment. And it's your emotional intelligence, your mental emotional connection that will make those things land for you of what the emotional body is sensing. So if you're putting that together, someone who's psychic, who has claircognizance or have any of their clairs, their high sense perceptions tuned, it's because they're able to process the feeling in their body in the smallest degrees, feel it, have that signal go into the brain so the brain can process it and say, this is what it is, this is where I should go, this is where I should change my mind, this is what needs to happen next. So this emotional body is in the field and sensing the environment that the physical body is eventually going to be in if it's not in it already. So then what happens is, if this is going to be an environment or a physical state that does not match the stored emotions in your body, the identity that your human brain made from 0 to 7, if what you're going to do next with your body does not match the initial program from 0 to 7, the energy of sabotage is going to kick in. And if you think about this from a survival state, sabotage is actually just trying to keep you intact. But for the context of how we think about sabotage and how we're thinking about it for our diet, our food, and our exercise / self-care, is that when we are going to make changes to the body based on doing these things to it, to either enhance its health or enhance its aesthetic, you're changing the physical component of mental, emotional, and physical balance, identity, coherency. So this is why when we're like getting ready to go to the gym, we could get a headache. Because on a deep unconscious level, the body's like, no, this is who we are. We're unhealthy, we're unfit. Let's have a headache so that we can't follow through. It's when you start to feel a difference in your pants and you're like, oh my gosh, my jeans are a little bit looser. The mind is like, this is not our body. We're used to feeling our body smushed into clothes. We better go eat so that we can get the body back to who it was. And so the point number 2 of what it does, sensing the environment for confirmation of who the mind thinks the body is and where it is. So this experience that we get to have, this is my belief, take it or leave it, that this experience that we get to have as a human aspect of our divine intelligence, the divine intelligence of our soul that is a fragment of source energy of God the Father and God the Mother, and us being the will of God in the flesh, the divine child that everything wants to be given to us if only we could remember who we are. Aside from the scary fear and pain programming that we may have gotten from 0 to 7. So I feel like this adventure for being a human, to have the physical body, is that when we're sensing the environment of where the body is, it's actually the metaphor of the mirrored universe or the fractured universe, that everything, every person, every experience outside of our body on the physical plane is here to mirror back our energy, our mental, emotional state. So when we have interactions with people, places, and things, it's actually an opportunity for confirmation. Yes, this is who I am. I like this thing. Or when we get triggered, what in me still needs calibration? What in me is still off, out of alignment for me to be upset about this thing? Slash, is this thing I'm upset about actually part of the thing that I'm here to help transmute? Therefore, I actually have to do the transmutation within myself before I can add this into my life's work of how to get through this corridor of the human experience. So if everything on the outside is a reflection of who we are on the inside, that symbiotic relationship between like an inner beam of light, like our beingness to me is a beam of light that's a continuous extension from source energy. We just can't really see it because it's so bright. It's like electromagnetic light frequencies that we can't see with our human eyes. That this beam, this center column that encompasses our chakras and the center of our toroidal field that everything in our body is built off of, that beam is like the energetic magnetism base structure. And then the space between us and the thing, the person, place, or thing that might be triggering us, is able to reflect back what needs to happen in that mental emotional state. So when we're looking at where the body is in the field, that energetic state is just trying to figure out, with all the stuff that's out there, what is my place in this area? Is it safe or not? And then also, this is really important for the people who know about goal setting and mindset and having a disciplined mind and focus, is that the minute that we change our focus to say, this is where I want my body to go, this is who I need to be in order to hold that new energetic state, that energetic beam of energy that everything is going to manifest off of. Who do I need to be the person capable of all of these things? Who do I need to be to make decisions based on my self-care and not on pleasing somebody else? Who do I need to be to control my stress, to manage my stress, to understand what stresses me out so that I can manage myself, give myself the proper rest and self-care so that I can produce all of these things that I want to do in my business? That beingness is the emotional state of the dream body. So if we have a goal that says, I want my aesthetic to change, or I want my health to change, we have to be a different person mentally and emotionally in order for that physical body to manifest. So this sabotage happens as soon as you change anything. So if you change the physicality of your body with what you're eating and how you're exercising and the places that you're going, it's going to set off the mental, emotional energetics to get you to sabotage or to create the sabotage of health within the body. If it's something that you're changing mentally and emotionally because you're saying, this is the picture I have of health and aesthetic in my mind, how do I need to operate mentally and emotionally in order for this physical body to manifest? That's enough to set off the sabotage because you just changed the mental and emotional component of identity. There's 3 parts to the identity: mental, emotional, and physical. So anything that has to do with the change of the body, if it actually changed where it is on the 3D plane, or the structure of it changed because your diet and your exercise, that's enough to set off the sabotage. If it was a mental and emotional decision and fantasy, but the physical body hasn't changed enough, that's enough for that sabotage to come up. So the third thing that I want to share with you before we hop off is the reverse engineering process. So what we want to look at is the environment, relationships, and self. And if you remember when I started talking about this program, this identity that we got from 0 to 7 was based on the environment that we were living in, based on the relationships with our parents, based on our relationship with community and relationships with other people, and then ultimately how our mind made a meaning about all of that, made a meaning about our self-worth. And so when we have anything that has to do with we're not going to be a worthy member of society, that makes our book of life tell a different story. It ends up telling a story of who do I need to be? How do I need to act? What do I need to think? What do I need to do to make other people want to accept me? And so when we do that, it translates into the overworking in the career, and then it translates into not taking care of the body and using the body as our whipping post. Because when we don't feel good about our self-worth and we choose to use the body as our outlet, that's when we overeat or don't eat enough. That's when we over exercise or don't exercise enough. So how we're going to sense this is we're going to reverse engineer it. So we're going to look at the environment. So at this point, this is the process that you're going to do to sense the energy of sabotage before it takes you out. And then also maybe if you are in a taken out position. I will tell you, I feel I'm still making a little bit of sense about this, but I woke up not feeling great. My cycle came 3 days early. I woke up at 3 with how my neck goes out. And I reflected on Dr. John Sarno's work that pain is tension myofascial syndrome, where the subconscious mind will cut off a little bit of oxygen to various parts of the brain that your brain has already identified make sense to feel bad. And so the physical pain is a distraction from the emotional pain. And this happens with people who have deep trauma, deep victimization that they checked out of their body when the thing was happening to them. And then also people who have inner anger, which I feel like is like more of my thing. And the inner anger becomes a type A personality, a perfectionist, and an overachiever. And I'm sharing this with you because I'm processing what's going on in my body and really taking in these 3 factors of what have I been eating the last 10 days? A fuck ton of sugar. My sleep has been off. I haven't been hitting my meals. I knew that when we made our Italian Christmas cookie, that after that, I was not going to care about what I was eating, although I stayed away from the foods that I knew were going to give me the severe abdominal pain from my inflammation issues. So I already knew I wasn't going to be taking care of my body the way I usually do because I wanted to eat those holiday foods. So what I'm looking at is the environment. What I'm looking at is what has come before this neck pain, and also really looking at, for me as a business owner, I have been nervous about how I was going to put together the infrastructure of this new business, this new brand, Body Energetics. I spent all last year calibrating. I feel like the 2 mentors that I had, Melanie Ann Layer and Stephanie Ann Houston, that they kind of helped me made sense of all of the soul reclamation that I did on my whole journey, and really allowed me to have like a structured mindset to actually observe what happened, look at it differently, and then really figure out how I can translate this inner work into the application of diet, exercise, and self-care. And it wasn't until I had a conversation with my friend Allie, who was like, what about entrepreneurs? That then I realized the physical sabotage pain that I've had is all about work and all about my worth. So when I woke up at 3 feeling that pain, the migraine pill that I have that works for me dissolves under the tongue and it opens up the blood capillaries. So I was like, oh, my migraine is tension, is my brain cutting off oxygen to this part of my back, which then radiates up into my head. So I'm thinking about Dr. John Sarno's work this morning, and I'm like, what am I afraid of? What am I stressed about? What am I worried about? And I'm worried about not being able to follow through. And I'm worried about if I do follow through with the business activities that go into building this business, I'm worried about not being able to follow through. And I'm worried about the ramifications of following through, which is neck tension. The amount of time in front of the computer to do a podcast, the ring light, the editing, the posting, the email, like everything is done in mostly a seated position, maybe standing, but it's done on a computer. Computer positions are not great for a forward head. and scoliosis in the thoracic spine. So I'm afraid of not following through, and I'm also afraid of following through. So when I woke up with the headache, I was like, obviously, and there's a podcast today. Can you get it together? And then I also took a look at the environment, how my body has, the environment of my body is a different chemical environment because of the foods that I was eating, and my period came early. So my body is having to move with my mental emotional state of where I want to go and what I want to deliver to people and how I want to help people. And it's also kind of dealing with an overabundance of sugar in my body and junk food in my body. So I want to share that with you because I'm in the energy of sabotage, but really what it is what I just explained to you. This is a new energetic field that I need to bring my body into after spending so much time mentally and emotionally figuring out what's next. So if you are in a state of sabotage with physical pain, hopefully all that stuff really made sense to you and you can kind of take what you need from it. Let's talk about before the sabotage happens. So before your sabotage behavior comes up or before your body flares. So number one is the environment. What's the vibe of where you just were? So we're in a place where everything happens in time based on the mental, emotional, and physical unification, coherency. Plus, we're in an environment of unknowns. So we can only do so much with ourselves. And then there's the field of possibility and probability, as Melanie Ann Lair would say. So we have the whole overarching universe and the planets having their own energetic experiences that translate into the Earth's, that translates into ours. Then there's a next field of other people with mental and emotional energetic fields. There's animals, there's plants. We are all energetically, symbiotically connected, like Avatar, like the movie Avatar. So you want to look at the environment of where you just were that's making you then want to do your sabotage behavior or setting off your body. Because what we're doing is we're staying present to the energetics of the sabotage so that we can observe what the trigger was. Because if we can find what the trigger was that's making us feel like crap, then we can work with the energetics that's stored. Hey, Brooke, she says, can't wait to watch the replay. I'm so glad. I can't wait to hear what you say. So you want to look at the environment. Were you in a coffee shop? Were you at the auto body shop? Like with somebody, we'll get into people in a second, but like, where were you? Were you stuck in traffic on the freeway? I hate driving long distances still because of how my life was when I was married and I had to drive an hour to get into town of where my business was. I still don't like driving long distances. I do not like being on the freeway for long periods of time, especially by myself. So what is the environment that you were just in that now you're starting to feel like crap, either physically or emotionally, that your body's breaking down, having the tension, or getting sick, or that you're looking to stuff your face, to starve yourself, to overwork yourself at the gym, or to not work out at all? What was the environment that you were just in? The second one is relationships. What's the vibe of the people and the conversations? So you can look like when I was about to say the auto body shop, if you're just at the auto body shop and the mechanic maybe was short with you, we don't like people treating us with a short temper. That reminds us unconsciously of blah, 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 blah. What was it like at the grocery store? Like, what were the conversations with your friends? What were the conversations with your partner, with your kids, with your parent, with your clients? Like, think about what were you were just interacting with another human being. Because in other episodes, we're going to talk about soul contracts, how I see them as a puzzle piece, or as, I forget what the other one was that I called it. The delivering of our heart's desires in shadow. 2 types of soul contracts I worked through in my inner work and in 2020. So the relationships are, there's going to be people's energetics, their mental emotional states that perfectly trigger yours. just because of who they are and their mental and emotional programming from that 0 to 7 and who you are. And it happens unconsciously. You don't know why you don't vibe with this person. It feels like shit, or maybe you guys end up fighting every time you have an interaction. Well, that's the old identity. That's the mental and emotional programs and conflict with each other, different worldviews and conflict, where you're just like, I don't know why this always happens. I really like this person, but this happens. So yeah, Brooke will be here for the soul contract conversation. I know it. So look at the relationships that you were just interacting with that might be setting off your body to sabotage it in tension or illness or injury or a flare. If you're going to stuff yourself, if you're going to starve yourself, if you're going to overwork yourself, or if you're not going to work out at all. And then finally, the relationship with yourself. What has your predominant thoughts mostly been? Where has been your area of focus? Where have you been thinking? What have you been thinking about? What is stressing you out? What are the goals that you have recently set? Because any of those thoughts, they can either rev up that old mental and emotional identity from 0 to 7, or they can conflict with it. And if there's a conflict, remember what I said, if there's a conflict mentally and emotionally away from your physical state, the energy of sabotage, the energy of identity is going to rev up and you're going to experience it. So those are the things that I want you to do. Look at the environment that you were most recently in, look at the relationships, the people and the conversations you were just having, and look at what's been going on with you. How have you been thinking? How have you been feeling? What have you been wanting to bring yourself into that is in conflict with who your mind currently thinks your body is? That's why the energy of sabotage is coming up, and that's how you can sense it. And we say it's sabotage because it gets us to do things, or it takes us away from things that we know we need to do to fulfill our desires. That's why we call it sabotage. We need to reframe it in that this is the identity. Whenever your body does something or you do something that is not in alignment with your desires, that's the energy of the former identity. So all we have to do is actually allow ourselves to feel it, actually allow ourselves to observe what's been happening in the mirrored universe so that we can get to know what the trigger was that caused the energy to come up to get us back into the state of who the mind thinks it is based on the 0 to 7. Yeah. Okay. That is your episode for today. I'm very proud of myself. I ate well and I prepared for this podcast. I do not feel 100%, but when I realized that I was afraid of following through at the same time of being afraid not to follow through, I knew that if I did this and I kept it succinct and I sat up straight and I had a positive mindset about it, and I understood what was happening in my mental, emotional, and physical state, it would work out. So here we are. Here is evidence of being in the energy of sabotage and being able to go through. I am going to rest today. I am going to go into the void and really feel my energetics and decide like, okay, like I don't have to be afraid of follow through one way or the other. I can do this. This is my life's purpose. The people who are receptive to hearing this will show up. The people who are not will not show up, and everything will just be fine. That's really it. That's what the work is. Okay. Yeah, she said, Brooke said helpful, not seeing it negatively as sabotage. Yes. Thanks. She says feel better. Yeah. I'm going to turn this light off, put on some pajamas, and probably go back to bed for an hour. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you found it helpful, please share it on social media and tag me at It's Lauren Saracione and at 𝗃𝗏𝗿𝗃𝗃. You can just search my name, Lauren Saracione, on the IG, and you should find both of those handles, no problem. I'm going to leave you with a few little snippets of the ladies who were in the very first Queen's Gambit with me. The Queen's Gambit is my year-long transformation where I give you all the coaching you need for mindset, emotions, habits, diet, exercise, and self-care.
First of all, thank you for just giving of yourself and allowing us to be in this space today. That's been really amazing to just see like how much you're giving to us. So thank you for that.
Because I'm not gonna go shame myself anymore. I'm not gonna go fucking judge myself. I'm fucking over it. I'm so fucking done with that old game. It's just an old game. I'm not gonna play anymore.
Adding upper body has actually been really good. I enjoy it because I've always been so scared of it.
The energetic stuff like has been really great for me because I think that's like what my like soul was craving. Like I've been wanting to know more, but like where do I start? So this has been super great.
New identity, new person, new body.
And it was like I could never get past certain plateaus, but this makes so much sense.
Exercises go really well. It's so much fun to have finally a gym.
I remember because it was so significant to me. That was after COVID. It was really difficult for me to go back because I had gained weight. I felt really heavy after having been lighter and through COVID and not working out. That day was really nice because you like encouraged me to like continue. When you told me, you're like, you're strong, sweetie, like you can go heavy, and I was like, really? That like helped me just kind of develop that confidence.
And I'm like, well, I'm gonna take responsibility for the mistake, but I'm not gonna like shaming or blaming or judging. It's not gonna help me take the responsibility. It just makes it like harder. So why the F should I like make it hard for yourself? Come on.